Hi guys, welcome back to another For Those Who Code video. This channel is where we discuss and learn new skills around the topics of design and development. If you want to grow your skills and learn new things that's coming up, please subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content. In this video, we'll be learning on how we can test our application with Cypress. We're going to cover unit testing with Cypress, and Cypress is definitely an excellent choice if we are testing a JavaScript TypeScript application, and it can be used to automate all kind of tests, including component test, end-to-end test, integration test, unit test, and many more. We previously covered how can we do end-to-end testing in our previous video. You can find the link in the description down below, and here it comes to your right. You can click on it if you're interested in learning end-to-end testing. Before we begin starting our unit testing journey with Cypress, I want to clarify one point. People often distinguish unit testing and component testing. In the documentation, you can see here, we just have end-to-end and component testing, but not really specific to explicitly telling unit testing. People often, distinguish unit testing and component testing as a different testing approach, but we can see also people use them interchangeably. But I personally find similarities between them. Obviously, there are some differences, but I will use them interchangeably in this video. So let's take a look into what we are testing with Cypress. All right, so we have this basic application that we'll be testing. Nothing pretty much going on. We just have one component which is called autocomplete, and let's run this application with npm run dev, and let's click on port 5173. All right, so let's bring this tab over here. As you can see here, we have nothing here, just a empty input field with label search your country, and this is an autocomplete searching component, so we can search for countries. Let's suppose we search for Norway, NO, and we can see a list of countries. We can hit up and down and select one country. Let's select Norway and press enter, and it populates in the input field. And we can also use also search for other countries as well. All right, so here we'll be testing the things like, is the search functionality is really working fine. Nothing shows up before we start our search, and active search class is added to the clicked item. We click on it, and we have this, and we can also check on the up and down arrow movements are working fine, and it adds up the screen background with a class added to it, and many more. So let's get started. So we are inside of our code repository, and we don't have any signs of Cypress inside of our project that we created. And this is a Vite project created from scratch, and we just have one simple component, autocomplete. Let's go ahead and add Cypress in the mix. So let's go to getting started and installing Cypress, and we will install Cypress with -- save dev, and hit on enter. And after hitting on enter, we should see Cypress as a dev dependency inside of our package.json file. And let's wait for it. We've added Cypress as a dev dependency, and have also added a line of script, which is Cypress open, so that we could open up Cypress browsers with just npm run Cypress command. And if you want to run Cypress in headless mode, then you could add Cypress run and use that command specifically. So after that's done, now let's go ahead and create some files. Before that, let's run Cypress with npm run Cypress, and also I want to split up terminal and run npm run dev in the other terminal. So let's run these two, and after that's running, we should see some browsers that's opening up here. And let's go to our beta component testing. Well, component testing is still in beta. All right, it looks like we haven't really created any of the specs file yet. So let's go ahead and create a new spec file. So by default, the spec file for the unit testing would be like inside of component and Cypress component name .sci.jsx. That should be JSX because we are working with React. Let's add this autocomplete the site.jsx, and let's hit our enter and also press in OK to run. And looks like we have created our component inside of here, and there's nothing here, and we can start writing test. All right, first things first, let's first learn about the major difference between the end-to-end and component testing, because it's the time that we should understand it. So I will take this browser right here. So the major difference between the component and end-to-end is this particular thing. Component tests differ from end-to-end test instead of visiting a URL to pull up an entire app, which we did in end-to-end test, a component can be mounted and tested on its own. So nothing really a big difference, just everything is the same. That's why we and it says site.mount. This helps us to mount a component inside of our application. So let's go ahead and add some describe messages to our test, and we could write test autocomplete functionality here, and inside of our it block we could add anything that's relevant to our test. First we could check the check everything is working. All right, and after writing that, we could also use site.mount. It's a function, sorry, not crypto, a site.mount, and we could mount this particular component that we created before, which is autocomplete. So we will write autocomplete, and we just get rid of that, and we definitely need to import autocomplete, right? So let's add autocomplete, and the path is not this. We should go one step up and go to src, and inside of src we have component, and inside of component we have autocomplete. And after hitting save, we should see autocomplete right in here. If everything is working fine, let's go ahead and stop this and restart it. And we have this autocomplete site.jsx. Click on it, and voila, here we have successfully mounted our component inside of Cypress. But the thing is, like, if we type anything, then we should see some errors because we really haven't really fed in the data that's needed for our autocomplete component. If we go to inside of component and see autocomplete, it takes in some data as a prop, and we are destructuring countries from there and renaming countries to data and using that data inside of here. So we haven't really passed in the prop that's needed inside of our component. So that particular prop can be accessed with fixtures, I suppose, but we will just grab it from the path that we will just access it, and that would be inside of here. And let's also pass in countries as countries, and this should work fine. And as you can see here, let's type in Norway, and we can see Norway is there. Okay, so far so good. So but the thing is, like, we need to mount our component in every for each it block. So it's good to add before each, so that we could make the use of mount the component inside of here, and we could move this up here, right? So and inside of our it block we could rename we could just add it,
And let's go ahead and write our test, right? The first thing is like we need to get some DOM elements, right? So another thing that I want to clarify about is also like how can we select the DOM elements. I will take you to the documentation. Let me quickly go to Cypress in the other monitor that I have and bring Cypress here. Let's go to docs and let's stop this because it would be consuming some memory. And if we go to references and go to best practices, and inside of best practices, then we can see here something like selecting elements, right? So best practice, use a data asterisk attribute to provide the context to your selectors and isolate them from CSS or JS changes. So basically it says that the best practice is to write data dash I and give it a custom attribute and use it as we want, like this. Data dash I rather than get button and click this kind of thing. You could check this out. Why I just discuss about this is I could see some of the videos just telling that adding a custom attribute is a bad practice, but that's fine if you are using it with the React testing library, but using it just with like Cypress, it's a good using plugins like React testing library. Then you could obviously you make the use of the selectors provided by React testing library, like get element by role and get element by alt text and so on. Okay, so now let's continue with our writing our test. First thing first, let's go ahead and grab our heading, right? So inside of our pieces, we have homepage, and we have this particular section called heading, where we have added some data attributes inside of here. So where you can see heading, right? So and we discuss about this is a good practice and recommended by Cypress. So what we can do is we can get make a query with site.get command and write site.get, and we could get that particular thing, which is data dash site, and that's heading. Sorry, the crow is like screaming in the background. Anyway, and write contains, and the heading should contain this particular string, which is search your country. So after that's done, I don't know why we have an additional bracket over here. Probably I made a mistake. Okay, so after that's done, let's go ahead and save it. Let's not execute it in the browser. And same thing, we could get our input field. So I'll just get the input field and make a should command, and it should have a like empty. It should be empty. The input field should be empty. And let's also grab the data suggestion list. So I'll just add site.get data dash I suggestion list should not exist. So it should not exist in the DOM. Let's go ahead and save it and see it up in Cypress, and everything is working fine, and the test is passing, right? And the suggestion list is not in the DOM. All right, so after that's done, let's go ahead and check whether the filter is working or not. So let's make another it block. Before writing that, let's like stop Cypress, because it helps to save some memory. But you could still spin up Cypress and run tests, save, and see the changes. Definitely. So inside of our it block, we describe what kind of test that we are doing inside of this it block. So check the filter is working, and we could Okay, to check the filter is working or not, what we need to do is we need to type something in this input field. So, and if we take a look here, now what we could do is we could select this input field and type something inside of there, right? So to get the input field, we could definitely make the use of get, get command. So we could get the input field and type no, right? So we'll get the input field and type no. And now what we could do is we could also get the suggestion list, right? The suggestions list was not did not exist before, but it does exist now. It should be visible, and we set an alias to this as a suggestion list. And what we could now do is we could check whether the suggestion list, the alias that we created, should have a length of 1. So it should have at least a length of 1, because there should be some countries with starting or having the character of NO. All right, so after that's done, we could save this up and run npm run Cypress and see that in action. So, and as you can see, we have written NO, and here comes the list of countries with NO. Okay, so after that's done, I will add another it block where we could, let's go ahead and copy this out because I'm not so tired of typing, but it's easy. Okay, check the selections are working. We will write check the selections are working. So inside of our this it block, what we could do is we could check whether we are really working with the up and down arrow. If you write something and do the up and down arrow, we have the selection, and we will also test this selection is working fine or not. So to have that, we could just go and stop it for now currently. And what we could do is we could get the input type text, which is this particular thing, and give it an alias of input text, so that we could just write input text if needed later on. And we could add sci.get, and we could get the input text and again type no. And we also use dot type command to type anything that's needed, and we are repeating down arrow 2 times here. So after that has been done, we need to make sure that our suggestion list, third item in the suggestion list, should have the class of active, right? Because it should have the class of active, because we added down arrow 2 times. And until this point, we should everything should pass, and we will definitely see that in action. And we also get the input text, and again we just do the up arrow thing. Now just one time up arrow, and now the second element should have the class active, not the third element should have the class active. The second element should have the class active. And we can also do another check whether if we click on the second item, and if we click on the second item, this input text that we have should have the value that's clicked. So rather than checking should have the value that's clicked, it would be like something would break later on. So we just check if it has the length of 1 at least, because we just clicked on the list item, so it has the length of 1. If it's failing, then it should be just a length of 0, right? So and the click did not perform. So after that click has been done, we can ensure that our suggestion list should not exist, because it should not exist before until we type, and it did exist, suggestion list, and now suggestion list should not exist. So yeah, this is a small test that we have written. Let's go ahead and save it, and let's go ahead and do npm run Cypress and see that in action. Okay, so let's go to component test. And as you can see, all of our test has been completed with a green check mark. So before wrapping up, I want to share some useful links to dive deeper into Cypress. The first is the kitchen sink app, which is created by the Cypress team, and it's inside of GitHub. So you can find the famous kitchen sink app, and click on the example cypress.io and find all the list of commands, assertions, and all the good things that you can find and like play around with Cypress. So and another link that I want to share is also this good article by SitePoint. Also check this out. SitePoint, Cypress testing, a guide to running web application test. So guys, in this video we covered unit test with Cypress and how we can do some testing with Cypress. And if you guys want to learn more around the topics of design and development, please subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget to smash the like button for me. This really helps me to create more content just like this. And thanks a lot, guys. See you in the next one.